Q&A panel. Combination of both. We're still waiting for 2 more people, and we'll get started shortly. Then we'll just wait until they get here. We'll get going. But 2 of them are here already, so that's a good thing.
You had a plan?
Yeah, like I was going to have everybody introduce themselves. Actually,
You know what? They were right behind us. I think they just.
we can start and
Okay.
then
Oh no.
almost.
They were right behind us.
Well,
Okay, I'll start.
you start.
Okay.
Introduce yourself and say what your role in the film was.
Am I on? Good. I'm Harriet Bass. I was Stacy in the film, and I'm assuming that you are all Madman fans. So I was the one with the head in the motor of the big yellow truck.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're on mic.
Oh, hi, I'm Mike Sullivan. I think, I never saw a script, but I didn't think I was in it. I think I was an afterthought. I met Gary Sales working on a porno movie, and then he thought, oh, let's kill Sullivan, because I had been sort of known for getting killed in movies ever since I got killed 4 times in Greaser's Palace, which was a movie where I kept getting resurrected only to be killed again. And I got, I think, knifed, shot, drowned, and played to death by a mariachi band. And my friend Jesus kept bringing me back to life. It was a weird movie.
And who's with us today, who I'm sure are going to be here in a minute, is Madman Morris, Paul Ehlers, and our producer, Gary Sales.
Yes, as soon as they find their way to this room.
You know, they were here, but they disappeared then.
Well, maybe they saw something more interesting going on. But what could be more interesting than this? So, let's carry on with you guys. So, when people come up to you at events like this, and they ask you about, the role that you played in this movie, what is the first thing? I'll ask you this first. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, when they say they loved you in this film, and then.
Well, I was so young. I was a brand new actress in New York City, and answered a call in the backstage, which is the trade paper for actresses. So I kind of didn't know what I was getting myself into when I started the film. But the truth was, we sort of came together as a community doing this. I know you've all seen the film. It takes place in a summer camp, and there's cabins. So we actually.
It was during winter at the time.
Yes, it was. Well, yes, it was fall. It was winter at the time. Yeah, fall into winter. But we lived in the cabins. That's where the whole staff, the crew, the cast, we lived there. So together, we really became this kind of madman family. And I don't think we realized at the time that we were doing it that we were making such a wonderful cult film. So I, to answer the question, am always surprised when people come up and say to me, "Oh, you were Stacy, how is that?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, you remember the film?" And I said, "Of course I remember the film." So it's thrilling, and it's an affirmation that we did good work and that had a great time while we were doing good work.
Thank you. And sir, the same question goes to you.
Gary called me up and he said he wanted me to do a day on Long Island to get murdered in this movie, and they weren't terribly organized, so I was actually there for a week. It took, I think, an hour and a half to shoot, and it lasted 30 seconds on screen. So it was, over and done with quick, except, I just wandered around in the woods for a couple of days.
We were.
All right. Take two. I
Hey,
want an encore.
my throat can't take two of them.
Oh, okay.
I don't think.
All right.
Hello, darling. Harriet herself.
Hi.
Keep on trucking.
Take your seat for you. Audience. Hi, audience. Say hi.
Hi, everybody.
So go up on Facebook for the end of the day. Okay.
Now, was that an entrance or what?
I guess it needs no introduction, Paul Ehlers or Madman.
What do you want to know?
Actually, I was asking,
Yes.
water for everyone, by the way. I was asking, when people come up to you at the show, for example, this one, what do you feel when they say, oh, they loved the movie, or they loved your role in the movie?
I'm thrilled because I've told the story that when we came out and we were finally released in '82, everybody at that time, I was 30, you know, and it's true. And my friends were all the same age, and they were horror fans, right? But I wasn't getting, you know, the feeling from kids, and I wanted to know if we were scary. So we did that, and then my friends were all very polite, and they said, oh, it's good. Years later, in 2006, I get a call from Wes Vance from Dead Pit. He goes, do I have the real Paul Ehlers on the phone from Madman Mars? And I said, yeah. And he went nuts. He said, we thought she was dead. I said, whoa, man, not exactly. And from that point, I started talking to people who saw it when they were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Scan this shit out, which is what I wanted to know so desperately. In fact, I used to say, if I could go back in time and see the film for the first time at like 7 or 8 years old, to really get a perspective on if what we were doing worked. So apparently, according to fans who saw it then, they did enjoy it, it did frighten them. So I'm very grateful.
Hey, we're on the psychiatrist's top 10 list for extra hours on the couch.
Which was a fun thing.
So,
You know, and people have come to the table who have seen it when they were 6 years old, and my question is, your parents let you go to a movie like this when you
I
were
know,
6
isn't that
years
incredible?
old? And of course they said to us, well, it was a different time. You know, parents weren't as holding on as fast to their kids, and there wasn't as much danger in the world, and they snuck to these movies. But I think if I were 6 years old and saw this movie, I would be terrified. And one fellow did say that it was a bunch of his friends that had come to his house and they went to see it, and they couldn't sleep all night. You know, they kept waking up and screaming, and so don't let your children see it.
The one came to us today and said that his aunt used to give them money to go to see the movies, and thinking they were going to go get like Mary Poppins or whatever it is, and they would get Madman and come home, and she'd be asleep, and then they'd watch Madman all night long. So they got their way in there.
But things being different, I mean, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, the premiere of this year's American Horror Story with Lady Gaga. And if you watch that, I was like, what? You know, I mean, there's, you know, it just has changed so much, you know. It just, things that frightened me when I was young, like in 1960, movies like The Haunting, where you don't really see what's happening, but it's all implied, and sound. It's still scary.
Even the first Halloween, there's not one spot of blood in the whole movie, and it's one of the best horror movies ever made.
Psycho
was one of the...
Psycho.
Well, there they showed blood, even though it wasn't coming out of the person, but I don't think you ever saw any blood in the entire original Halloween. That's how good Carpenter's technique was.
Right.
And that scared the shit out of me.
well, the same thing could be done, said for television shows like The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
The premiere 2 weeks ago was, wow. It was like so much gore and blood. It worked in the context of that show, but, and it's cable, but you couldn't have seen anything like that 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It was unthinkable. So yeah, things have changed. As a producer, putting this movie together, were you influenced by the story, legend, prophecy, that whole thing?
Oh yeah,
Which is,
I grew up with that. That was my version of it, because summer camps up in the Catskills, that was de rigueur, was the prophecy legend. And we would hear all these stories about this mad farmer who would come out, you know, messed up something, and you know, said his name.
Can you guys use the mics, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, I apologize for that.
No problem.
Yeah, I can use the mics. Usually people tell me to shut up and be quieter, but I'll use the mics. Anyway, so yeah, prophecy legend was a big thing, and if you've watched the movie or watched the extras, you may know the tale that we were in the middle of about to make this, and we found out actors were coming in and saying, I read for something like this. It sounds so familiar. And one girl came in one day and said, you know, my boyfriend is working up in Buffalo right now on a movie, and I helped him read for this to get him ready for the show. And I know I read a scene that was just like this with a monster just like this. He's doing it right now. So we got in touch with that company. Our production manager happened to know that person. And those were the days before fax machines, really. We got a FedEx down the next day. And it turned out that they were doing the Cropsey Legend, as we were doing the Cropsey Legend. We always called the movie The Legend Lives because we figured it's public domain. We don't want anybody else to grab our version of the Cropsey Legend. But it turns out they were doing the Cropsey Legend. And it turned out to be none other than The Burning, that was being produced by none other than Bob and Harvey Weinstein. So we quickly kind of rewrote the movie. We were going to name it Madman, we were going to name it Cropsey when we brought it out, but they were like 5-6 weeks ahead of us, and we knew they were going to get to the American film market and get to the market before us, so we decided we're too close, there can't be two movies the same. So we went out and we literally rewrote the movie over a weekend to just make us different, still maintain the legend, but we stopped calling it Cropsey, and Mars became our guy, Madman Mars. And he became Mars because I was working with music and I was going to host the planets. Okay, I was going to lift the Mars section of that to use that as a musical theme to work with. So we just decided to lift the name, you know, and make him ours that way. So it's a kind of life does that to you. So it's movie making.
That's a very cool background thing about the connection there between the music cue. Yeah, I don't know outside of the New York area if people knew about this Cropsey thing, but if you were in like Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Explorers, or you were with a camping group, they would scare the hell out of you late at night around the fire. This is how this thing started. And especially if you're in a wooded area, and as it got darker and colder, then you would hear these Cropsey stories. They kind of varied over the years, but then you're like, oh shit, I don't want to go to the bathroom. You know, I don't want to go by that tree. Where's the tree? All the way over there? And this is what happened. Then movies like this came out, and then it's like, oh, I don't want to go camping.
Well, every counselor, every headmaster, they all had their own version of it. You know, it came out different every year. Week was, you know, the telephone game.
I thought
got
I
in
was
there.
the head.
I was a Cub Scout on Long Island.
I'm afraid to answer that.
Oh,
And
okay.
I didn't hear about Cropsey, but I heard about the guy that fell into the glass crunching machine.
Whoa, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Something out of Fargo.
And lived.
Well, you know, that's the thing when Joey and I, and we give kudos and props to the late director Joe Giannone when I say that, we were all about finding the thing that was classic about making a horror film and this type of thing, which was, you know, they all started before electricity and lights around campfires somewhere, some dark place. And we were trying to just maintain that tradition of the scary story that would be told by somebody, usually the elder or someone like that. And we just wanted to keep that going and do it in that manner. So to us, it came from that. Like we tried to keep it so that it was not, you know, other than the type of kills we did, it wasn't to be a trendy kind of thing. It has a classic kind of a grounding, you know, and, that was the whole ingredient. It seems it's 35 years later and people still seem to dig it, and we have fans, and we're not up there with Friday the 13th and stuff, but we're still around. And maybe we'll bring our remake out shortly and we'll keep going.
There's a Blu-ray that just came out recently, and Harry, did you guys get together? I haven't watched it. It's pretty new on the market.
Well, no, I haven't watched it either. I mean, it's brand new. Gary it's at our table. He says that the quality is phenomenal.
It's
superb.
superb.
Really so superior to what the other ones were.
Did you guys get together for audio commentary for that?
Not for that one. There was an audio commentary. That Blu-ray, by the way, has every bonus we've ever done. The original one and the one for the 30-year anniversary stuff, and the new one. It's got everything that's been done. The original commentary for Anchor Bay was with myself and Paul and the late Tony Fish, who played TP, and the late Joe Giannone, who was the director. And that was pretty much who we were able to get together on the day when they wanted that, in the former Mayflower Hotel in New York, which is no more. Those things. And then we did some special commentaries, just Paul and me and Richie, who no one had ever seen for 30 years, for the new Blu-ray. And there's a in the 30-year anniversary DVD, we put out a 90-minute 30 years of Madman documentary in there, and there's a bunch of extra little stuff in that. But this, I was really adamant that I didn't want to do, I did a standard definition for the 30-year anniversary, and I've been waiting for, first of all, so that I could afford it, because doing something the way I wanted to do it, which is a laser scan off the original negative, was very expensive. And until I ran into Joe Ruman and the guys at Vinegar Syndrome, who were putting out great stuff, if you're looking for good old horror and all kinds of stuff from the 60s and 70s, his mission is to take film-based movies and transfer them into digital so they can stay around. So they're doing everything from the period.
Yeah, I agree. Just for a second,
Yeah.
Vinegar Syndrome has been doing amazing work lately. Even Golden Age adult films, and there is an audience. But they've been doing a lot of horror, and yeah, they do amazing work.
So for Madman, we dug up my original negative, and we literally laser scanned 127,000 frames. It took 10 days.
Wow.
And then we cleaned up the negative, and we took out any of the dust and stuff. The only thing that remained was the scratch marks that were vertical, that were in the original movie. That was just a negative problem we had, and it's just too expensive to take them out. And I figured that's part of the original thing, so I left it in. But the color is gorgeous. It looks like we shot it yesterday. It isn't as blue as the Anchor Bay, which everybody loves that blue. They fell in love with that, and then we got all beat up because the 30-year anniversary went the other way, and we took the blue out. And now this has the blue the way the director intended it, or the director of photography intended it. I spoke to Jimmy Lemo, who also shot Miss 45 and a couple of old great stuff there. And I discussed with him how to do the timing. So when we went in to do this, it's just right now. It's just the way we shot it on 35. And we're starting to show up on big screens now. I just made a deal with Grindhouse, and they put movies out on the big screens. So we'll be popping up in different places. If you ever want to see it on a big screen, it's available.
Yeah, there's a few. What nice thing around New York, I noticed, there's starting to be new repertory theaters again, like the H Street Playhouse, the Elgin, for those people who know New York. And now there's one in Brooklyn called the Nighthawk Cinema.
The Nighthawk, and Alamo is going to.
The Alamo Playhouse.
They're going to build one in Brooklyn. It's just coming in now. There's one in Westchester,
Right.
which we screened at, which was great. If you've never been to an Alamo, the Alamos are great. They really are. They have 1 foot in the current, and they got 1 foot firmly placed in the past, and they show lots of old great stuff on the big screen. And you can eat while you watch. They got it all set up with
And
different
drink.
tables and drink,
Oh, that
beer.
sounds great.
Yeah, and the tables are set up such a way that there's a long table in front of you, but it's low enough so that when the waiters come by, you can still see the screen and they don't block you. So it's a very cool setup, very cool.
I'd like to take some questions for these guys because they have lots of fans. So please, anybody have any questions? This is
Anything.
the quiet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, about the Cropsey legend. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn on Cropsey Avenue. And I went to camp in the 70s. I always heard about the Cropsey legend. Every time we went out, it was always Cropsey's going to get you. You know, like about 6-7 years ago, they came out with a documentary exploring the Cropsey thing. Was that Tribeca Film Festival?
Yeah, they played it. This question is about the Cropsey legend, and they did make a documentary a few years ago. They built it around Staten Island, actually.
That's where the campground was.
Yes, there's a campground there. But
I
this,
didn't believe what they were saying about their theory about where the legend comes from.
it's up for grabs. It's public domain legend, so everybody can twist it.
I have my own theory on.
Oh, well, we'd be happy to hear that, too.
Well, in the 1600s, there was a man named Jasper Cropsey. He was a famous painter from the Hudson School who had a house on Staten Island, and you could still visit that house apparently. And I think the legend, I can't prove this, but I think the legend comes from Jasper Cropsey's house on Staten Island. That's what I think anyway. But
Did he do anything
disagree
terrible
with
to
me.
deserve that, other than being a bad painter or something? I don't know.
No, he was a great painter.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Actually. But I think that's where the Cub Scout, Boy Scout legend
I
came
see.
from.
Was that Camp Alpine, the one
That
that's
was,
that
I think it was like Steve Kaufman campgrounds in the middle of Staten Island.
Alpine was up a little.
Oh, Alpine was
Palisades,
upstate,
yeah, that's the
yeah.
one.
They always talk about Cropsey, legend of Cropsey. I just thought it was fucked up because I lived on Cropsey Avenue.
It's by Coney Island, right?
Yes, I live right there, where I live.
Right. Anyone else? Please don't be hesitant.
We will.
I have a little known
He
fact.
wants to say something. I
A
was
little
going to say
fact,
we don't bite, but he does.
I do.
Well, I have something I just want to relate to everybody, which they may find to be fun. My son Jonathan was born during the filming of the movie, and you probably all know that story, right? Everybody knows it. If not, I'll tell it again real quick. Yes, okay. Gary had provided me with a doctor's old-style beeper, which I wore on the coverall. And my wife was in her 9th month when we were shooting. And we figured one night this would go off, and we were in the middle of a scene, and the makeup was on, and the blood was flowing, and everything was happening. Beep, 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 beep. Thing. So I'm looking for Jo Hansen, who was the makeup lady, and I'm saying, everybody, help me get these hands off, help me get the mask off, and they're pulling on me as I'm running to the car, and I pull away with blood and hair sticking out, and I went to North Shore Hospital, and I got there in like record time. It was 2:30 in the morning, and I pull up and I leap out of the car, and I said, "Guys, where's maternity?" And they said, "Sir, no, you want emergency." So that really happened, and then later when the show Amazing Stories came out, there was an episode called Mummy Daddy about a guy, an actor who had gone through a similar thing. So I don't know whether they heard that from this story, but my son, Jonathan, born at that time, we lived in Kew Gardens for a while in Queens, and he went to PS 99 in Kew Gardens. And in those early grades, he had a friend that he used to tell me about, and we had met the fellow's mother, and the kid's name was Davy Davidson. And she had said, my husband did a horror film, and it turns out it's the actor that played Cropsey in the Cropsey Maniac. So my son was going to school and having lunch with Cropsey's son, which I thought was so cute, and apparently, did anybody know the name of the actor from The Burning? Is it Davidson, or is it David, or?
Lou David.
David, right? Lou David,
Lou
right?
David.
Lou David. That was his dad. Yeah, and that was real weird. Here's the Madman's son and Cropsey's son together, and God knows what, but it is a small world when it comes to horror. Yes.
We had a question back there.
Yes.
Question. Someone had a hand up.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Shoot.
Was there any kind of feedback at the end when basically the kid that started the whole thing by calling it Madman Mars's house was the one that ended up getting away at the end while all of the other characters died?
That's true, and Richie, right? I mean, we've wondered about that. Richie had to be totally nuts after that experience, right? I mean, you would think. Catatonic and strange,
Yeah, but see, my theory always was, but Gary never backed me up on it, is that they left it open for a sequel to have that particular guy.
Why would we do something like that?
I mean, that's the one connection that could have
Right, which was
kept the next movie going.
There were early drafts of that, just to be honest about it. There were early drafts of that where we basically ended up plucking him out of a mental institution for the criminally insane because there was no other way to pin it on anyone, so they basically made it seem like he was the guy. But we never got to do that one, and we've actually come up with some other ideas about it in when we do the remake. But the great part about that was the wonderful irony of the schnook that starts it all is the one that doesn't get whacked. So, and everybody always got a kick out of that. And he was such a little bratty kid at the time. He was like only, I don't know, Tommy was what, 19, Jimmy, at the time.
He was not.
And he had the perfect attitude to be that, Mars, Madman, Mars. I mean, he really was annoying. And so it was great that he was managed to get away somehow, by no fault of his own, just by being lucky. And also being shocked to the point of going crazy. And again, it was part of the idea that nobody believed that it was a real thing. It was a legend. And then he finds out that it's real, but nobody now is ready to believe him. So it's back to that same place in a sense. So that's an interesting thing about those legends, is that you don't believe until they're in your face, you know.
So you weren't actively trying to do something different, like, hey, let's kill the final girl.
Oh, in that? Yeah, well, we were more like in that. Yeah, we were trying to avoid, you know, it was our, like, maybe we tip on our hat to women's liberation. It was like, you know, we weren't going to stalk you for sexual reasons, but we're going to kill you.
Everyone had to die.
Everyone had to die. But, you know, we hung her on the hook, you know. We could have got out of that with a sequel. We could bring her back. We don't know that she died. I mean,
But she has never forgiven us.
No, that's true. She has never forgiven us. Hence, we don't have Galen here at these shows.
I'd like to take one more question. Anyone else?
Sure.
Please. So, are there plans to remake this?
There are. I've been trying to get it off the ground. I'll be going out to the American Film Market again next month in November. I've gotten some offers to do it, but I've turned them down because I don't want to do it as low a budget as they want to do it. Madman is he's more venerable now. He's 35 years old. For God's sakes, I can't do it like, you know, as a young man's movie anymore. No, I mean, it deserves certain special effects. It deserves certain treatment. My ideal cast would be Quentin Tarantino to play Max, do the story. It would be great to have him do the story. And Quentin's a big fan. He loves the movie, owns his own print, he plays it at the New Beverly in LA when I'm out there. And get Big Show from the WWE to play Madman, and which would be kind of interesting. And get Christina Hendricks from Mad Men to play a nurse character that we have, who's the nurse that everybody wants to screw at the end of the camp season. And I promised her that we would lop her head off on screen. She happens to be a horror freak, so she would love that. And it's hard to get deals with the agents. Everybody's busy. So, you know, to get their time. And then Sarah Hyland from Modern Family. But she loves horror. So if I can pull that cast together, I guarantee I get to do it.
It's certainly something to look forward to.
I have a question for the audience here. If you're a fan of Madman on Facebook, raise your hand. Oh, we got to do better than that. Oh, okay, good. So if you're on Facebook, we're Madman Mars Movie. We're easy to find. So join up and like us, and then we can converse and, you know, do stuff. I pay a lot of attention to it and talk to people all the time.
And these guys are downstairs. Which room was?
We're in the Skylight Room.
Skylight room.
Skylight Room. Wonderful Skylight Room.
You can talk to them more, and they have stuff.
We have swag. Yes.
Swag.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just got a question to ask you. You guys filmed this movie during the death of John Lennon in December of 1980?
Well, during is an odd way to put it. You know, it took us 6 weeks. They took him out in about 5 minutes, unfortunately. No, John Lennon, I woke up on the last day when we had finished shooting to the radio announcement that John Lennon was shot. And that was the real, I think it was December 7th or 8th.
December 8th.
8th. And that was just like, you know, after this amazing experience that we had, and we were exhausted. We were not smart enough to shoot it, you know, split it in interiors in the daytime and shoot night for outside. We shot nights the whole time. So we had been 6 weeks of nights. We were like
so when
a
did
bunch
you
of
start filming the movie?
We started filming it on my birthday, October 21st.
Wow.
Happy
Literally,
birthday.
thank you. A couple of days ago was actually the literal 35th anniversary of the beginning of principal photography.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I myself, of course, didn't have that pleasure of being that age anymore. But it was a great experience. And then on the 33 years later, on my 33rd birthday, due to the financial vagaries and the craziness of the movie industry, I was sitting in a bankruptcy meeting where the distributor that took us out originally, Jensen Farley Pictures, was now bankrupt, and they had overextended themselves. And I was sitting in a bankruptcy meeting with all these big honchos from Movie Lab and a media spot buying company, and they were in the hot for about $12 million then. Wow. Out of which they owed those guys $2 million, and these guys this much. They owed us $600,000. They went on nest egg, and it was a great lesson in the movie business. But we took it back, and we're still in control of it, and so that's why it's still out and still around. And
So how well did it do at the box office?
we did great at the box office. One thing they did do good, Jensen Farley Pictures, and if you're old enough to remember In Search of Historic Jesus and Gentle
The
Band,
Boogans.
The Boogans,
The Boogans, yeah.
But they knew how to do mass marketing on TV. And when Madman came out, we were all over the television for the 2 weeks before we opened. We were the first spot after the ball dropped on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I remember the TV spots.
Yeah, lots of TV, lots of radio,
Yeah.
and consequently, when we broke a territory, we were at 77 theaters when we were in New York. We were at the old Rivoli, we were at all the big houses, and we were number 10 on Variety's Top 50 Grossers chart. E.T. was number 9.
Wow.
So, you know, me and Joey, the late director, we were just totally tickled that we were a couple of schnooks from Brooklyn who could go
So
out
Thorny
and do this.
AMI picks you up for video then, huh?
Oh yeah, you're an aficionado. Yeah, they did pick us up for video, and I don't know, maybe it was us, because the next thing you know, they went bankrupt.
Well,
You know,
I have to kill this now because we have another one that's right behind this.
Okay.
I want to thank you
killing
guys.
us goes with the whole
Well,
thing.
not literally. But I wanted to thank everyone for coming and thank you guys for coming. Skyline Group.
Shake our hands. All right, so thank you guys in person.